So I'm an anthropologist by profession. I'm a faculty at the Indian Institute of Forest Management. So I'll also be joined during this talk by my co-author, who is an anthropologist as well as a legal expert. So to give, she will be concluding the talk. I'll initiate the talk. So the presentation, I start with something, the elephant in the room, which is the disproportionate burden of conservation. And it's a known fact, and there's enough scholarship today that suggests that there are some communities, they have, they had to bear disproportionate burden of. And there can be a number of reasons, but what I'm doing here is I am flagging two issues. One is displacement. Forced displacement, and we have cases of forced displacement across the globe. That's one. And the second thing is there is a sense of a fait accompli for them. So because there is power asymmetry, the people living in the forest who are poor, who are politically marginalized, can they negotiate with somebody who is strong? The answer is no. But then so it's the fate is already written there. But the question is, when you talk about India today, and India being, we are committed to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, and we all think, by 2030 we need to meet those 17 SDG goals. So the question is, and the core of SDG being leaving no one behind. So can we really leave some people behind and call it their fate has been sealed? The answer is no. And it is in this context I argue, and that is my argument is going to be. So now, on the face of it, relocation might look at, if you look at it, I'm not definitely saying it's forced relocation because there's much more to that. I'm going to dip much deeper than that. But we all agree that there are certain cases where, coexistence is just not possible. Particularly, for example, in tiger reserves, where I've been studying for, more than a decade now, and where you have tigers, you have primates, you have wild boars, you name it and you have it. Now the problem is, what do these people do? And everybody kind of, that coexistence, I can say whatever it is, but fate is already written there. Now, in this context, many times people reach out to these people, the people living in the forest, and we want to try something new. It could be a chili rope, it could be something, some can work, some may not work. But the other person, the other side of the fence, who is not in a position to negotiate, so where does they live? I mean, it leaves nothing for them. Now, in such a context, voluntary relocation, and when I say voluntary relocation, it is also free prior informed consent. So that is what I'm essentially talking about. Now, voluntary relocation policy in India also in a way addresses your multidimensional poverty index developed by Oxford and UNDP. So when you talk about poverty today, we are also talking about 1/3 weightage for education, 1/3 health, 1/3 other assets. And India again has accepted the whole idea of poverty, the same MPI big time. So we also don't want to leave anybody behind. We also want these people to do well in all of those 10 indicators of MPI. So the whole human-wildlife conflict in a way has to be reimagined and reframed because of the aspiration, particularly in a country which is growing exponentially, economically, we all know that. So therefore, and on the other side, I being an anthropologist, people like me, when we go to the people, living inside the forest, and unless you go with a romanticized idea of people living in the forest and the coexistence, many times they say, no, it's not like that. Dig deeper, and then you see, within a household, there are various voices. So the father is saying one, son is saying something, daughter-in-law is saying something, and eldest grandson is also saying something. But the bottom line is, if it is a free, prior informed consent that is taken from us, and there is a government backing, then we can go, because this is kind of a sure shot success. And here the government, the state takes a position of duty bearer. And on the other hand, people living in the forest it is for them a right. So I have a right, state has to perform. So therefore, the whole negotiation changes, and this was the paradigm shift that we are talking about. In 2006, some of you would know, in India we came out with something called Forest Rights Act, and also we came out with an amendment to Wildlife Protection Act. And before that, in 90s, we had another very interesting amendment to the Indian Constitution, whereby we talked about strengthening local governments, 73rd Amendment to Indian Constitution. So if you put all of this together, the idea was, FRA clearly states, we want to undo the historical injustice done to people. That's a government statement. So therefore, further, you have to look at human-wildlife conflict in a particular context, and because if you do that, the same people who are living in the forest 24/7, living in the kind of a fenced themselves within the forest, you cannot, there are opportunity cost, everybody is suffering, kids are unable to go to school, nobody is able to go to a hospital, there are number of costs that you have to. From there, here is a new village, and here is a commitment from the government. There are other departments, line departments, they all toe the line because here is a commitment right from the top, from the government. And when you talk about how does it happen, free and prior informed consent, what am I saying? The thing is, the government can go to the people living in the core of a tiger reserve. A tiger reserve in India would be about 2,000 square kilometers, and the core would be about 1,400 square kilometers. You can go there, go to a village, local body. It's not just a de facto village institution, but a de jure village institution we're talking about. Go to them, seek their permission, go to the household, seek their permission. If they say we want to go out, okay. If you don't want to go out, it's all right, also okay. But if you want to go out, you have two options. Option one, you can take a lump sum amount of this, and we'll give you a nudge so that you buy a plot of land wherever you want to and settle down. If you don't want to go for the second option, it's not just this, it's land, agricultural land, homestead land, your house, everything, and we're going to do it for you. Not just that, other departments, including your agriculture, veterinary support, everything would be there. So you get a priority, and we as a state, as a government, it's our duty. So for you, for the people, it becomes a right, and which the government is obliged to do. And if you look at, I was talking about, these are the, sorry, I'm so sorry. Okay, pointer must be somewhere there. Anyway, but if you look at education, health, and living standard, these are the things I was talking about. If you will remember, that's the MPI. And MPI, Multidimensional Poverty Index, developed by Oxford University and UNDP, the same thing. So you see how it can all fit in. But what I'm saying is also, please don't get me wrong, that there are many other things which are going right. For example, what Mohan just said, maybe it's working for him. In some places, it's working, perfectly. But there are some places where coexistence is just not possible, because this is going to be a very expensive affair. There's a lot of money into it. But then here is one sure shot solution, and it's embedded in social equity and justice and guaranteed by the government. I'll quickly invite my other co-author to sum it up with as a legal expert. Yeah. Shall I?
Yes, please. Okay, I'll be very brief here. It's just as Ujjal was speaking, we have a fairly robust legal provisioning in the country, starting with the FRA. And basically what is there on paper that has been implemented in very imaginative policy responses in a state like Madhya Pradesh, especially the Satpura case, where there has been convergence from all government departments, and along with the enabling law, there has been this responsiveness from officers working at the Tiger Reserve level. So this is again a framework which we have proposed, and that's already published, that when does voluntary relocation work, and how do we, the rights-based framework which can be applicable anywhere else, basically free prior informed consent of Gram Sabha, which is the local body, which is composed of every adult member of the village, settlement of all existing rights, including exploring the option of coexistence as mandated under the Forest Rights Act and the Wildlife Protection Act, free choice to, there are two options, free choice of the villages. Then also because in a relocation which is done by the forest department, there is the community development plan where we argue that it needs to be more participatory with more, means there are men's choices and women's choices. Women's choices are very different and there is also a need for further accommodation. Certain preconditions need to be set right. For instance, when relocation takes place, the agricultural fields need to be prepared beforehand. People need to be provided all their entitlements, such as under the Food Security Act, under various other entitlements which the government gives. Then there also has to be an inbuilt process of upgradation of the package. Government of India recently has upgraded the financial amount. And also, as we have observed in our study, the most difficult time for relocated villages is during the initial 4-5 years. And it calls for really good livelihood and financial handholding. And you know that even CSR has been working, means government has tried to rope in everybody to make the village relocation work. And finally, I would like, it's a big win for conservation. Also, this is after almost around 10 years after the relocation, we have the grasslands back in the reserve. Then also, because we have been working on the rights-based approach to relocation, we also would like to make a case for extending the rights-based approach to human-wildlife conflict. And because we come from the state of Madhya Pradesh, where already the government has made compensation due to losses due to human-wildlife conflict a legal entitlement. So with this, I would like to conclude. Any questions? We'd be happy to address.
Thanks very much, both of you. That was amazingly interesting. That's why you were allowed to go over time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Can I just use my privilege to ask you a question? The first one. Is that 1.5 million rupees per household?
Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting question. Now, 1.5 million rupees, who do you give? Now, what is a household? Actually, there's a definition. This particular protocol has defined family as anybody who is above 18 years old. So it's even better. So if a household has 3 sons, all of them are 18 years above, so 1.5 million into 3.
Okay.
And if you take option 2, then you get 5 acres agricultural land into 3. So 15 acres of agricultural land, house building, and then your homestead land, and thereafter all other facilities. So it's a fairly robust proposition from the government.
And in your country where there's such population pressure, if you move people away, isn't there a lot of political pressure to allow other people to reoccupy the area?
Yeah, that's again a great question. Now, there is a Supreme Court guidelines where they're saying that wherever you have degraded patches that is beyond recovery, so we can, for these people, we can denotify such degraded forest where there is no canopy, it's completely degraded, because it's a trade-off.
Okay. All right. We're doing not too badly on time, so any other question?
How far you relocate them? How far you relocate them? Would these animals follow them back to that place?
Yeah. Again, since it's a right-based approach, so where do they relocate? Again, the decision lies with them. So the forest department is supposed to give them at least 2 to 3 options. And what we have seen, there is again, it's because I'm an anthropologist, I would like to dig deeper and deeper. So many times, they'll like to go to their own ethnic community wherever they are. They have their own, choice making, but then they are given options. However, if they take the first option, which is money. It is a fantastic case. I mean, those of you who know India. So, for example, Madhya Pradesh, where we come from, there's another small state carved out of Madhya Pradesh called Chhattisgarh. So, when this new state was carved out, so some of the relatives, they went to the other side. So, when they got this option, so they said, okay, give me the money. We're going back to my uncle's place and be his neighbor. We wanted to, stay there for a long time. So again, it's not a top-down driven that you go here, you go there, but then I have to give you option. But definitely, the whole idea is there is no longer any pressure. So for example, Satpura Tiger Reserve, the case that I presented, 48 villages have been relocated, and now there is no village in the core. So 1,300 square kilometer of inviolate space for tiger population, for you name it, and you have it. So it's kind of proper, win-win kind of a situation based on social justice and equity. Yeah, please. Yes, please.
Thanks. Apologies if I misunderstood anything here, but what happens if you're one of those people that doesn't want to leave?
Yes.
And everybody else leaves,
Right.
and then you're left on your own?
Right.
Do you not then feel under pressure?
No, you cannot force them as per law. You cannot force them, and there has been a couple of cases where like few of the families, they decide we don't want to go out. You cannot do anything. That's again their choice.
But what I mean is they're going to be left with nothing and no people around them, and so suddenly their environment changes?
They would continue to remain as a forest village. And the forest department will have to take care of them because they are citizens like anybody else. So they do have all the rights of any citizen. But voluntary relocation has to be based on free, prior informed consent. There is no other way. That's mandated. That's the only option. If somebody say, I don't want to go, you can't do anything. But then, like I'm saying, like I have just showed, because it's the whole country is moving in a particular direction, it's economically is growing. So there are aspiration. So different generations, the old people maybe, we initially thought they don't want to go. But then their response is, okay, I'm pretty old now, but I care about my grandson, granddaughters. They would be able to go to a college. They would be able to, get better health facility, because this area where I'm talking about, monsoon, which is the rainy season, all the roads are submerged. So if somebody has to go to a hospital, it's almost impossible. And from there to a situation where a call of, you make a phone call and an ambulance come to your house. So it's a whole difference. And for the government, they also score well in MPI, Multidimensional Poverty Index, health, education, and assets. So it's again a kind of, one working with other.
Thank you very much, Ujjal.
Thank you so much. Thank you.